A lot of teams that are still alive with about a week and a half left. Tons of crazy things can happen. Who even knows? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another week of the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. And I'm your host, Frank Rampin, like always. And we're going to get into one of the last couple weeks of the MLB season, which means that there's only a couple more episodes of the MLB regular season. Only going to be a couple more episodes before the playoffs start. So, last about week and a half until the playoffs start, and both of these wild card races are getting absolutely insane. The American League, the top of the American League right now is the Rays. The 2 seed right now by a game is the Toronto Blue Jays, and right behind them, tied for the 3rd seed, is the 2 teams in the American League West fighting for that division as well, the Seattle Mariners and the Texas Rangers, who are a half game behind Houston. So a lot of crazy things happening in the American League, and the National League wildcard race might be even crazier. The top of the National League wildcard right now is the Philadelphia Phillies, who have been going on a little bit of a skid lately. They played very well over the course of, July and August, really. Mid-September, they've kind of hit a little bit of a lull. They haven't been as good as they have been. Something to look at there, but they still have that 1 seed in the National League. The 2 are in the National League wildcard. The 2 seed over there, as of right now, is the Chicago Cubs. They had that blistering start to start the second half. They still are riding that high. They're flying that W. They're in second place in the National League wildcard. And then at the end of that, there are 2 teams tied again. The Miami Marlins and the Arizona Diamondbacks, both tied for that last spot, with the Cincinnati Reds on the outside looking in by half a game, and the San Francisco Giants, who have been struggling lately, 3 games out now. So a lot of teams that are still alive with about a week and a half left. Tons of crazy things can happen. Who even knows? The Yankees are still alive at this point. Not a good chance, but they're still technically alive. Less than 2 weeks left of the season, so this is really it. And we're going to get into our outfield play of the week here. And tell me if you've heard this. Tell me if you've heard this on the show before. Cedric Mullins made our outfield play of the week. It's the 4th time that Cedric Mullins has made the outfield play of the week. This guy is unbelievable in center field, and I love watching him make plays. So we're going to jump into a huge series they just had at Camden Yards against the Tampa Bay Rays. Rays were down in the division by, I believe it was 3 games going into this 4-game set. So the Rays had a chance to leap over the Orioles as the division leaders in the American League East, and they took the first 2 games. And the first 2 games were won by Tampa Bay, which shrunk that division lead to just 1. But the Orioles were able to win the last 2, split the series, and extend that division lead back up to 3. But in one of these games, I believe this was game 3, Taylor Walls comes up to the plate in the top of the 2nd inning, rips one into the right center field gap. Cedric Mullins on the run and full extension lays out just in front of the warning track to make a ridiculous play. And oh my gosh, Cedric Mullins, there's been 3 times he's been on this show for robbing a home run. This time it's finally not robbing a home run. But what an incredible play. We're going to go back and watch that again. And there are just some plays that you watch an outfielder and you watch him run, and you know he's going to make that catch. Look at Cedric halfway through this. Taylor Walls smokes it, and he's tracking it down. And then there's just a 3rd gear by Cedric Mullins there. He's like, I'm catching this ball. There's no chance. He picks it up into 3rd gear, lays out, makes an unbelievable catch to end the inning. Cedric Mullins, he has been so unbelievably helpful and clutch for this Orioles team when he's healthy. And we're going to get into that now. We're going to move into our Game of the Week segment. And, this Orioles team, they've been playing very well. I've talked about it a lot since Adley Rutschman got called up, actually, since last year. But this season especially, they've been playing very well. They're on pace to win 100 games, have their best season since 1973. A bunch of records in Orioles history. Great team. Bunch of young stars as well. But this week has been tough for them. They've played 2 tough teams. Team that's gaining on them in the division, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the team that's been the juggernaut in the AL for the past 8 years, the Houston Astros. And in this Astros series, we find our Game of the Week. I believe this one came from last weekend. I'm not positive, but we're going to jump in here with Yordan Alvarez taking his first at-bat in the bottom of the 1st inning. And, of course, he smokes one into left field, but Austin Hayes makes a nice over-the-shoulder running, leaping catch on the warning track to rob Yordan of extra base hits. So, the nice play by Austin Hayes in left field to keep Yordan off the bases. Then Kyle Tucker comes up, and Kyle Tucker has been having an exceptional year. He laces one over the second baseman's head. That's going to find the right center field gap. Picked up by Aaron Hicks. Jose Altuve is going to come around to score. RBI double for Kyle Tucker. That's going to make it a 1-0 ball game for the Astros. But next batter, Chas McCormick, is going to line out to the third baseman to end the inning. After a leadoff triple in the top of the second inning by Gunnar Henderson, that brings up Adley Rutschman, who lines one down the left field line, and Chas McCormick lays out to make a ridiculous play down the left field line, full extension. But as Gunnar Henderson had triple, tags up and scores. That ties the game. But exceptional play from Chas McCormick, the left fielder for the Astros. And he's been unbelievable this year. He's more known for his defense, and he's always been kind of like a defensive replacement kind of guy because that Astros lineup has been so good. But his bat has really came around this year. Like, Chas McCormick, I watched him have a 2-homer game in LA and Anaheim against the Angels. He won Player of the Week, first week after the All-Star break. I mean, he's been a much better hitter than he has been. So a much more complete player. And, of course, just a power, or not a power, but a consistent bat with a great glove at the end of that Astros lineup. Of course they do, because why not? Best team in the league. We're going to move ahead now to the bottom of the third inning. Still 1-1 ball game, and that man again, Kyle Tucker. He's going to lift one into shallow center field. Runners on second and third, one away. Cedric Mullins comes in to make a running catch. Throws to the plate, trying to get Yordan Alvarez, and nails him at the plate. Unbelievable throw from Cedric Mullins. This guy just makes ridiculous plays all over the field. Hoses Yordan Alvarez out at the plate to end the bottom of the third inning, end the threat from the Astros, keeps the game tied at 1-1. So, another great play from Cedric and an outfield assist. That guy, I love that guy. I love Cedric. Cedric is an absolute beast. So jumping ahead now to the top of the fifth inning, and Ryan O'Hearn, who's been an unbelievable asset to this Baltimore Orioles team, comes up with runners on second and third and two away. 2-2 count. He's going to bloop one into shallow center field. That one's going to fall in front of Mauricio Dubon. Jorge Mateo is going to score. Austin Hayes scores. 2-run single. That's going to put the Orioles up 3-1 in the fifth inning. And we're going to head now to the bottom of the sixth. Shintaro Fujinami now pitching for the Baltimore Orioles. Shintaro Fujinami. I don't know why I wore this shirt. Not sure why. Facing Kyle Tucker, who has been a menace in this game. Rips one into left center field. Austin Hayes trying to make another great leaping catch. Cannot do it as he is kind of runs into the Crawford box's wall, and the ball sneaks into that little corner back there. Kyle Tucker digging around second, dives into third base with a triple. One away, he's on third base. So Astros in business. Next batter, just talked about him, Chas McCormick. His hitting's been coming around this year. Laces one up the middle off of Fujinami. RBI single, that'll make the game 3-2 here in the sixth inning. And after Chas McCormick steals second base, Fujinami throws one to the backstop. So Fuji really trying to find his control here. Gives up a single to Jeremy Pena through the 5-hole. That's going to tie the game up at 3-3, and Shintaro Fujinami is going to be pulled out of this game. So, Jose Altuve coming up now with runners on first and second and 2 outs. Rips one down the left field line. That one's going to bounce off the wall. Misplayed by Austin Hayes. That one's going to shoot back to the infield, and that allows 2 runs to score. So the Astros, 4 runs in the frame, take a 2-run lead after being down 3-1. 5-3 ball game now. After a leadoff single by Gunnar Henderson, who has been very good this year, Adley Rutschman steps to the plate, and he smokes one off of Rafael Montero deep into the left center field corner. Left center field, that smokes off the bullpen wall. That rattles around. That's going to allow Gunnar Henderson to come all the way around and score from first base. That is an RBI double for Adley Rutschman. That's going to make it a 1-run ball game, 5-4. Nobody out here in the top of the 7th inning. And that's going to bring up my boy, Cedric Mullins. Cedric is going to line one down the right field line. That's a fair ball. Get into the right field corner. In comes Rutschman. Around third, being waved in is O'Hearn. The throw from Jeremy Pena nails him at the plate. So the tying run cut down at the plate, or the go-ahead run, cut down at the plate. But a clutch RBI double from Cedric Mullins to tie the game up at 5-5. Ryan O'Hearn cut down at the plate by a good relay from the Astros. And We're tied heading into the bottom of the 7th inning, 5-5. And the second batter of that bottom of the 7th inning is former AL MVP Jose Abreu, who absolutely clobbers a hanging changeup to dead center field. That will be a solo home run. 6-5 game now, Astros on top. And a shootout here between two powerhouse American League teams this year as Jose Abreu gives them the lead. Next inning, in bottom of the 8th inning, Martin Maldonado steps up, and he is going to absolutely annihilate this baseball to left center field. That's going to get over that little, like, underneath the archway they got, hits the archway underneath the train. So now, I believe that was that a 2-run bomb? No, solo home run. That's a 7-5 ball game now for the Astros. Headed to the final inning, top of the 9th inning, down by 2 runs for the Orioles. They're going to have to make something happen. First batter is Ryan O'Hearn. He is going to ground one up the middle. That's going to be a leadoff base hit. Austin Hayes is going to follow that up with a hit of his own. And with 1 away, in the top of the 9th inning, they're going to bring in Ryan Presley. Cedric Mullins comes up. With runners on first and second, the go-ahead run is Cedric Mullins at the plate. And he's going to rip a hanging off-speed pitch from Ryan Presley and absolutely smoke that ball over the bullpen in right center field into the crowd for a go-ahead 3-run home run in the top of the 9th inning off of Ryan Presley. So Cedric Mullins already was our outfield play of the week, making an unbelievable play in a huge game against Tampa Bay at home. Makes an unbelievable play in center field in this game, running in almost a shoestring kind of catch. Comes up firing, nails the runner at the plate to keep the game tied, and then in the 9th inning, hits a 3-run go-ahead home run to put the O's on top by 1 run. So now we're going to head to the bottom of the 9th inning, and Felix Bautista is still hurt, so Yennier Cano has been moved into that closer role, and he's going to face Chas McCormick here with 2 away. Runner on third base gets him to swing and miss at a slider outside of the zone for the save. Huge comeback win for the Orioles, as this week was a tough test for this young Orioles team, and man, did they answer it. It looked like they were going to have a little bit of trouble with that Rays series to start this week when they lost those first 2 games, and I got a little nervous for them, but they were able to win the next 2 and then win a series in Houston against the Astros, and I mean, they're headed into this last week and a half playoffs sitting pretty. If they win this AL East and get that bye and be the best team in the American League, I mean, that's interesting because they're only going to have to win 1 series to get to the ALCS, right? Because they'll have a bye. They'll get all the way to the ALDS, right? And they'll just have to win 1 series. All right, so now moving on. That was basically the Cedric Mullins first half segment because, I mean, that guy, I need to get a Cedric Mullins jersey. This guy's the man. We're going to move into our MLB standings update now. And this is all getting very, very, very tight now. Week and a half to go. Let's get into it. American League East. Baltimore Orioles, like I just talked about, had a huge week to split a series with the Tampa Bay Rays where they really, really needed those last 2 games, and then they won a series against the Orioles. And Heston Kjerstad just became the first player whose first MLB hit ended a no-hit bid in the 6th inning or later since 2018. So another rookie contributor. I believe he hit his 2nd homer of his career this past weekend. So another person. Maybe they're going to get Jackson Holliday to come up for the playoff roster. Who knows? Gunnar Henderson, who has been unbelievable at the plate and on defense, playing short, third, wherever really you need him. He's got an absolute great arm. He's got unbelievable range. He just surpassed Cal Ripken Jr.'s single-season O's rookie record for the most runs scored with 91. And Grayson Rodriguez, another young starting pitcher, he's 23 years old and 23 years and 304 days old. He's the youngest O's starting pitcher to go 8 scoreless frames since 2011. And like I said, they're 2 games ahead of Tampa Bay as of right now because they had that huge 2 games at the end of that series. And we'll talk about Tampa Bay now. They hold that top American League wildcard spot, but this American League West or American League East is still up for grabs. Brandon Lau is one of 5 Rays players with 20 home runs this season. That's the most ever in one season with the Tampa Bay Rays. The Toronto Blue Jays, they're holding that second wildcard spot, right? They're 1 game ahead of both Seattle and Texas for that second American League wildcard spot. And they have extremely important baseball coming up. Every single game for them is the World Series. They have to win every single game for the rest of the year. I mean, not every game, but every game should be a must-win game for them. They got a bunch of games against the Yankees coming up. They got to take care of business there. They got to put the Yankees to bed because the Yankees, like I said before, I mean, they've been playing better over the past like week and a half. They jumped ahead of the Red Sox, and I mean, they're still alive mathematically somehow. I mean, I got a bunch of Yankees fans all the time telling me that this has to happen, this has to happen, we have to beat the Blue Jays this amount of time, they can't lose this many games. So technically, it's still alive, but they would really need about everything to go right in order for them to make the playoffs. But, you know, it's the Yankees. We'll see. You never know. You never know. The Boston Red Sox have struggled over the last couple weeks to month of the season. And, I mean, they've eliminated themselves, but they were kind of in the way of some teams, you know? Now they're just kind of out of it. The National League East, the Braves, they clinched their division again. Unbelievable. Ronald Acuna Jr. was the first player this year to reach 200 hits, and it was the first time in his career he reached 200 hits. And the other night, on Tuesday night, he hit 2 homers in the same game. He was banged up, but he came back 2 homers in the same game at home Tuesday night to give him 39 on the season and put him 1 away from 40. His 5th 40-40 season ever, and he might get 70 steals along with it. Talk about that. Matt Olson, we talked about him tying up Andrew Jones for the franchise record in homers. He passed him in Miami earlier this week. Passed Andrew Jones for the Braves' single-season home run record with his 52nd. And like I said, they clinched the division yet again. The Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Schwarber hit a 483-foot home run on top of the Chop House to right center field earlier this week. And it was an absolute moonshot. Hammered that ball. It's the longest regular season home run hit by a Philly since 2015. So what that means is that the Phillies have just a longer home run in the playoffs, which is kind of crazy to think about, of course. And like I said earlier, the Phillies hold that top NL wildcard spot, but they've been a little bit shaky over the past 2 to 3 weeks. So that's something to look into as we get into this. The National League wildcard race is insane. So that's something to look into as we get into this last week. The Miami Marlins, they just had a huge, did they just sweep? I think they just had a massive series sweep against the Braves. 2 games in a row where Jazz Chisholm hit a grand slam. And the last game of that series, I believe they won it like 16-1 or 16-2. So Miami, crazy. They're half a game behind the Chicago for that last NL wildcard spot at the moment. And Luis Ariz had his first career multi-home run game. And then the next day, he homered again in his first at-bat. So that was in that Braves series, by the way, where they swept him. In the second game of that series, he hit 2 home runs. And then in the last game, he led off the game with a homer. And they ended up going absolutely nuts. Luis Ariz recorded the 6th 200-hit season in Miami Marlins history. And the most recent was D. Strange Gordon in 2017. And that's actually surprising to me. I did not know that he had a 200-hit season for the Marlins. Jazz Chisholm, like I just said, he hit 2 grand slam. He had a grand slam in back-to-back games. He became the first Marlin ever to do that, and they're a half game behind Chicago. The Mets, for some reason, the Mets right now are like giving playoff teams problems. Like whenever a playoff team goes to Flushing, New York to play the Mets are like taking at least 1. Sometimes they're sweeping them. They are taking 2. They swept 1. Like I don't know what's going on. Washington Nationals, C.J. Abrams just got his 42nd steal of the year, and that is the 3rd most in the single season for a Nationals player. We'll move along to the American League Central now with the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins have looked better over this past 3 weeks to a month. They have been they've been really shaky. That whole American League Central, I've been talking about it all year, been the worst division in baseball by a mile, right? But the Twins are starting to get a little bit better at the right time. So potentially the Twins could give somebody a problem. But, I mean, they might be the weakest team heading into the playoffs. But Royce Lewis is Mr. Grand Slam. I've never seen anything like this. Mr. Grand Slam, Royce Lewis, hit 4 in 18 games. That's the shortest span to hit 4 Grand Slams in MLB history. Insane. And since August 23rd, which is 23 games, Royce Lewis has 34 RBIs, which is 7 more than anyone else in the major leagues. So, like I said, this Minnesota Twins team has been playing better, led by Royce Lewis and his absolute RBI and Grand Slam craze that he's going on. And as of today, September 20th, I believe, the magic number for the Minnesota Twins to clinch the American League Central is 3. So that could happen by the end of this week. The Cleveland Guardians, Tanner Bybee is one of two pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball with 23 plus games of 25 innings pitched or three or fewer earned runs in his first 25 games. So only two pitchers in the history of baseball have had 23 or more games pitched with at least 5 innings pitched in each of those games and 3 or fewer earned runs in each of those games in their first 25 career games. Second time ever. Tanner Bybee of the Cleveland Guardians. Ridiculous. And you can't talk about Cleveland Guardians without talking about Jose Ramirez, as he just became the 4th active player to record 200 home runs and 200 stolen bases. The other 3 are Mike Trout, my boy Andrew McCutchen, and Jose Altuve. So pretty elite company there for, the best player on this team, Mr. Reliable for the Cleveland Guardians. He's just everything for that team. The Detroit Tigers, Reese Olson has taken a no-hitter into the 6th inning in each of his past 2 outings and 3 of his first 16 starts. Reese Olson. You might be asking, who the hell is Reese Olson? I don't really know. Rookie pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. 2 no-hitters. He's taken a no-hitter into the 6th in his last 2 outings and 3 times in his first 16 career starts. Jeez. This guy a dog? The Chicago White Sox are floundering. They're looking for the season to end. They're ready for vacation, it seems like, especially Tim Anderson. The Royals, Nelson Velasquez, he hit 10 home runs in 28 games as a Royal. That was the fewest games to reach 10 homers in franchise history. And he hit number 11 yesterday. So Nelson Velasquez is hitting home runs for the Royals, at will. And it's kind of out of nowhere. I think he just got called up not too long ago. And, 28 games. And they just had a 4-game winning streak out of nowhere. And, pretty sure 2 of those games were, or maybe 3, were against the Astros. They just beat the Astros. We beat the A's, beat the Astros in a series this week. And then the Astros just lost a series to the Royals. Back-to-back. Back-to-back series losses for the Astros to the Oakland Athletics and the Kansas City Royals. So, I don't know what happened there. And during that 4-game winning streak for the Royals, they never trailed at the end of any inning. The worst team in baseball had a 4-game winning streak out of nowhere at the end of September, and they never trailed for 1 inning. What is that? National League Central now. The Brewers. Mark Canha, the former Oakland Athletic, my boy. Mark Canha hit his 2nd career grand slam in the 8th inning to win the game. Bottom of the 8th inning, tie ball game. Mark Canha, grand slam to win the game. Tied a career high with 5 RBIs in the game. So he's been very good for them ever since they picked him up at the deadline from the New York Mets. The Chicago Cubs, like I said, they are half game behind Arizona. Actually, no, they're a half game behind Arizona and 1 game ahead of Cincinnati for the NL wildcard, for the last NL wildcard spot. Nico Horner is one of 3 Cubs in the past 100 years to have 40 or more steals and 60 or more RBIs in the same season. He joins Ryan Sandberg and Kiki Kuehler. And seasons with 25 home runs and 20 steals in Cubs history, here are the names. Sammy Sosa did it 4 times, from 1993 to 95 and in 1997. Ryan Sandberg did it 3 times, 1985 and 1990 to 91. Javi Baez did it in 2018, and Cody Bellinger just did it this year. So the 4th player in the history of Cubs history to have 25 home runs and 20 steals in the same season. And like I said, they were half game behind Arizona and 1 game ahead of Cincinnati for that 2nd NL wildcard spot. The Cincinnati Reds. Speaking of rookie contribution, this Cincinnati Reds team is basically entire rookies. Spencer Steer has 22 home runs this year. That's the 3rd most all-time by a Reds rookie. That's only behind Frank Robinson and Joey Votto, and they are 1 game behind the Chicago Cubs for that last NL wildcard spot. That was my division pick, so that didn't look very good. That's over. The Pittsburgh Pirates, they just lost a series to the Yankees over the weekend, and they lost one of those games to their former ace, Garrett Cole. So Garrett Cole came back to PNC Park and got a win against his former team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that actually completed all 30 MLB teams that Garrett Cole has started a game against in their Stadium. The St. Louis Cardinals have been a very, very big disappointment for this entire year, but one of the legends of the past 15 years for that organization, Adam Wainwright, who is on his way out now, he just got his 200th career win the other day, and he was very emotional after the game. He threw a gem, threw 7 scoreless. They ended up winning the game 1-0 off of a Wilson Contreras home run, so perfect way for him to get his 200th career win. And he was very emotional after the game, crying on the field, thanking the crowd. It was pretty cool to see, but he might be done after this year. So that might be the last Adam Wainwright moment that we get to see. The American League West now. I said the Astros they're leading that division now, and I told you like 2 months ago that they were going to come back and win this division, but I just said it. They lost a series this week to the A's, and then they lost a series to the Royals. So they lost the series at the Coliseum and then in Kansas City. So that's never good. But Michael Brantley just came back for this team, and no one's talking about it. Like, that was the most under-the-radar, like, somebody coming back I've ever seen in my entire life. Nobody talked about Michael Brantley coming back into this Astros lineup. And he just slots himself at the bottom. Nobody cares. And he's one of the most consistent hitters in the league, always, when he's healthy. So, like, that's scary for the playoffs. And this lineup, it's just so good. Like, their lineup is so good. And they're half game ahead of Seattle and Texas for the division lead. So this is going to come down to the wire with all 3 of these teams. And speaking of Seattle, the Mariners got their 16th shutout win of the season. And that breaks the franchise record that was set by the 2003 team. So this might be the best Seattle Mariners team besides that 116 win team, especially the pitching. The pitching has been unbelievable. And there you see it with their 16th shutout win of the year. And like I said, they're tied with Texas for that last American League wildcard spot. Texas has struggled over this last month. They have struggled mightily, and it kind of coincided with the thumb injury to Josh Young. He took a liner off the thumb, broke it, and he was out for about a month, 3 weeks to a month, and they really struggle. They need to figure out right now. Like every game matters to them. But last night, Josh Young made his return, and he hit a RBI single up the middle that ended up being the game-winning RBI. So he came back, immediately made an impact, and we'll see if they can ride that momentum of him coming back. And like I said, they're tied with Seattle for that last American League wildcard spot, and everything's about to be crazy for the next week and a half between these 3 teams, Seattle, Texas, and Houston. The Angels, Shohei just got surgery, and it's official that he's not going to pitch again until 2025. And he cleared out his locker at Angel Stadium, which, I mean, obviously he's done for the year, so that could mean he's just taking all the stuff home. But I'm sure Angels fans are a little bit uneasy, on edge for the future, I'm sure everyone thinks that he's going to leave because terrible sequence of events for the Los Angeles Angels this year, and it doesn't look like they're going to be getting him back. And it really sucks that he got hurt because I think that he was about to sign the biggest contract in the history of American sports. He was going to sign a $600 million deal, and it was going to be crazy to see. But he was robbed of that, and as were we. Unfortunate. The Oakland A's, talk about them for a second because, the boys. Shea Langeliers became the 4th A's catcher ever to hit 20 home runs in a season, so pretty impressive stuff there. He almost hit another one. Last night he hit a triple off the top of the wall in right center field, but we lost the game to the Seattle Mariners. We'll move over to the National League West. The Los Angeles Dodgers clinched the NL West already. They clinched it earlier this week. They have won 10 division titles, 3 National League pennants, and a World Series since 2013. But the key stat there, 10 division titles since 2013. Just think about that. They only had 11 division titles from 1969 to 2012. 11 in the entire span. They have 10 since 2013. That just shows you how good this Dodgers team has been over the past 10 years. Ridiculous. And add 3 National League pennants and a World Series on top of that. That's pretty impressive. And Freddie Freeman hit his 56th double of the season yesterday. And so that makes him 4 away from 60. There's only been 2 players in the history of Major League Baseball to have a 60-double season. And both of them came in the year 1936. So it hasn't happened in about almost 90 years-ish, and they both happened the same year. 60 doubles in a season. If Freddie Freeman gets there, Unbelievable. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they walked off the Cubs this weekend. They swept the Cubs. One of the games was a walk-off, crazy ending to that game, in a 4-hour and 24-minute long game. It was 2023's longest game by nearly 15 minutes, and the Arizona Diamondbacks hold the second National League wildcard spot. San Francisco Giants, Lamont Wade Jr. recorded his third career walk-off RBI, and 2 of those 3 came this last weekend against Cleveland. So he had two walk-off RBIs back-to-back days, and he had 3 on his career. So 2 of them came back-to-back days. Pretty cool stuff. Brandon Crawford has 80 career RBIs at Coors Field. That's the second most RBIs at Coors Field by a visiting player, only behind Adrian Gonzalez's 88. And the San Francisco Giants, they're 3 games back of that last National League wildcard spot, and it's kind of slipping away from them. They've been struggling mightily over this past 3 weeks. I mean, they haven't been able to really do anything, and they've had a bunch of big series against teams that they need to beat that they haven't been. They've been struggling against Colorado for some reason. They played a couple series against Colorado, struggling against them. Now they're playing Arizona, and they need to beat Arizona because they're behind them. The Padres, man, crazy. What I'm about to say here is insane, and they're like 10 games under 500 or whatever they are. Juan Soto became the 3rd Padres player with a 30 home run, 100 walk season. He joins Adrian Gonzalez and Fred McGriff. Keep talking about Adrian Gonzalez here. He also hit his first career grand slam, and it was his second homer of the game against the A's in the Coliseum, of course. And only 4 other players have more multi-home run games before the age of 25. So multi-home run game against the A's in the Coliseum. He hit a grand slam in the game, which was his first career. And there's only 4 players that have more multi-homer games before the age of 25 than him. And Fernando Tatis has 2 seasons with 25 homers and 25 steals. And the Padres only have 4 in team history. So he has 2 of those, 25 homers, 25 steal seasons. The Padres' team history, 4. Matt Waldron just became the first knuckleballer to get a win in the major leagues since Stephen Wright in 2018. And here's the crazy one. The Padres just won 4 games in a row for the first time this season. The first time this season the Padres win 4 games in a row. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The last team in the MLB to get 4 wins in a row. The Padres. That's a joke. With Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, all these guys making records for the Padres. They're 10 games under, and they just won 4 games in a row all year. That is insane. That is insane. And to round it out, we got the Colorado Rockies, who just beat the Giants in the series. Like I just said, the Giants have been struggling with the Rockies for whatever reason. But it was the first series win against a divisional opponent in 2023 for the Colorado Rockies. So that shows you how this year had gone for the Colorado Rockies. Not too great, as they pick up their first divisional win in a series in September, mid-September. So that's not ideal. But, it's going to have to happen at some time. So better late than never, I guess. And that will wrap up our standings update. And week and a half left to go in the season. All this stuff could get flipped on its head. Everything could change. Bunch of stuff is going on in the American League wildcard, National League wildcard, and the American League West. All 3 of those races are insanely tight. So next week could be our last update on the MLB season before the playoffs start. And we'll check back in then when we got the updates ahead. So peace out.